Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Well, this is our usual week life of Uncomfortable Dialogues. And today we have a special guest. We have Kevin Figueroa from Mexico. He's here and I'm just gonna have him join me in the conversation of today, that it is self-harm. As usual, I have my disclaimer to tell to you that this dialogue intended to hurt anyone or be against anyone or target anyone. And if gets too uncomfortable, hi Kevin, if this gets too uncomfortable for anybody, feel free to step out. Feel free if you get triggered with this conversation. This is just to open dialogue between two human beings about topics that are taboo or that are hard to discuss, and we just bring them to light so that we build tolerance and just spaces of true dialogue without imposition of opinions. So welcome, Kevin. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Well, I am an actor from Mexico, currently studying online, as crazy as it is, as crazy as it sounds. I could say I'm based in Mexico. Have not yet worked in here yet, so I cannot say that for sure. But in terms of the topic of today, I have experienced I've been victim of my own harm for quite some time, and it's been a journey that I've taken part in. It's not a fight that you win once and then it's over forever. It's something that I carry and fight with almost every day of my life. So yeah, 24 years old, Scorpio, favorite color is red, cha cha cha.
That's wonderful, Kevin. Yeah, what you say about it being a constant battle. If you don't mind me asking, what is the trigger, or what took you to attempt self-harm, or what was the process, the I don't know, the psychological process or the mental process in order for you to get there?
Okay, yeah. For me, I've almost always have had a very keen awareness of myself and why I do things, how I do them.
Yeah.
So if I can take myself way back to the first time I did it, it was mostly because it was an easier option. I've always had a relationship with anger, and that relationship was not always the healthiest. So I see eating disorders for me to be a form of self-harm. So, and when going back to me saying that it's an easier choice, sometimes for me, when I was like 13, it was easier to just puke the food that I ate instead of going 2 hours to the gym and sweating and looking ugly and whatnot. So whenever I felt hungry, it was as if I was punishing myself for not being how I wanted to be or looking how I wanted to look. So every time I felt hunger, that pain just felt like, okay, we're into our like in our way to looking like that or whatnot. That's one way of self-harm, which was eating disorders. And I used to rejoice in the pain that I had because that way I felt that I was doing something about the things that I did not like about myself, which were plenty. And the other form of self-harm was thanks to anger. The fact that I was reminded of my own inability to do something or to understand something or to be something that I thought I should be created very violent emotions within me. And I am a person who crying is like the last resort. Like anger is always the first emotion that I get to feel, and the emotion that is the loudest for me.
Yes.
So whenever I feel angry, I need to do something about it. Otherwise, I just swallow it and it doubles up and doubles up, keeps doubling up. So I would always be careful to not harm others, to not
Mm-hmm.
harm third parties.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been careful to not allow my anger to affect other people directly. So the way that I coped with my anger would be just by harming myself. Similar to with me going through hunger for days without eating sometimes. Um, I would feel that that pain would be, my logic was, if I feel physical pain that is greater than my mental pain, I
Mm-hmm.
can forget for a while about this mental pain because I'm focusing on harming a physical, another pathway of myself. So
And
whenever something didn't go my way, I would just like punch myself in the face as hard as I can until I heard my jaw clicking or something, or bite my arm off ravenously, like, "Rrr," because
yeah,
that pain was telling me like you're doing something, kind of like how you feel sore after going to the gym, and instead of it hurting, you're like, oh, look at this bitch with this round butt. Instead of being a physical soreness or pain, I was giving it to myself instead of in 2 hours, in like 2 minutes,
yeah.
or something.
And do you think that this was like a response that you were having against, like, I don't know, social impositions, or rebelling against, like, a way you were supposed to be, by cultural reasons or religious reasons, or why? Where was this coming from?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You can keep your questions as specific as you want. I'm not, like I'm not uncomfortable with answering anything. Uh, it was, if I have to think about it, it was a combination of all of them. But the main trigger, I think, was that from my young age, I experienced like popularity, as popular as you can be in sixth grade or whatever. And I experienced it being something that was not who I truly was.
Hmm.
So being given, like overwhelming kinds of attention. Like I would literally be stopped for some fucking reason. I still don't understand it, but I would be stopped in the movie theater when I was like 13. Like, hey, can we take pictures with you? And not in a sarcastic or anything way. It was like legit girls like, oh my God, we got a picture with him for some fucking reason. But all of those things, my first taste of popularity and wholeness and all, was from me being something that I was not. So I think it was in my, because I was not as conscious as I am, but right now I was not back then as that conscious. Uh, it was because my subconscious was telling me that that was not the way to get those things, the approval,
Hmm.
the attention, the whatnot. So it was, I think, if I had to put my finger on it, it was my subconscious rebelling against my, everything that my conscious self was enjoying at that moment, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, we don't deserve this. Fuck you.
And so, by you pretending to be someone that didn't reflect your essence per se,
Mhm.
you felt that the only way that you could, like, probably process that was by going through these methods, or these kinds of things of
Yeah.
self-harm.
So
Yeah.
like I have a lot of energy, and in that moment, as I said, in those years, I was not as aware as I am right now. I still had some awareness, but not as much as I do today. And I needed to do something with that energy. I
Mhm.
did not know what it meant. I did not know what it was asking me to do. I just knew that I needed like a reaction. I needed to see something being affected by who I am. And since I didn't want to go the route of like punching walls or like starting fights with people, because that can get you killed in here too. But I started just using that energy to harm myself, and I kept thinking it's gonna be all right. It's me. It's not like I'm gonna kill myself with a good punch or
Mm.
whatever, however correct or incorrect that
And
may be.
when did you think that escalated? When did you knew that it was not yet like that it was okay because it was you, and since you were applying it to yourself, it wouldn't like go somewhere else? Like when did you realize, or what happened?
It I honestly I did not know how much it had escalated until I, started drinking alcohol and partying like older teenagers do in here, at least, because alcohol just made it even worse.
Mm.
But what it made worse was also the fact that I had no consciousness of the harm that I was doing to
It was
myself.
just like a suppression of the
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, totally. Again, it came from a lack of awareness of where I actually wanted to be and where I needed to be. But it came in like it came through stages. It was not always like it was first anorexia, then it was bulimia, then it was anxiety, and then it was, but it was sort of addressing the same fundamental thing, which was we don't like who we are, but we're not willing to do like even the bare minimum about it. So that
Yeah.
energy that we could have used but in or invested doing something about it positive was instead just being swallowed and invested in me harming myself in different ways. First with anorexia, and so on and so forth. Then with alcoholism that lasted for like 2 years. So yeah.
Totally, totally. I know what you mean. It's like the truth is so like unbearable about I just don't know what happens, like, and this is not, like a question per se. It's just more like a question to myself and like in my realm here, that why, instead of like really, what is the fear of like really becoming who we truly are and showing our true authenticity, and we spend so much time like either trying to change that, or manufacturing something that other people will accept more,
Yeah.
instead of just like really saying, well, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to show, and even if that also causes something, because you're never gonna please everybody, and people are always going to have something to say about you or me, or whoever comes in the way. So it's just really interesting, the like the parkour of some of us in the quest of that authenticity, and in the quest of being who we truly are, right?
Yeah.
um and it's tough that that you have to go through those places of like darkness and shadow, and like obscurity, where you need to like rebel yourself against yourself by
Sure.
self-harming you, in order to at the end vanquish and say, this is who I am, and I don't want to harm myself no more.
Yeah.
So when 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 that happened, what, because I can imagine that sometimes the frustration's still there, sometimes the anger's still there. um, what do you do now, like if you don't go to self-harm anymore? How do you
Mhm.
process that?
Since I was a child, I picked up on certain things that would allow me to let my energy leak. Because let's get a little metaphysical here. I believe that we all have a certain affinity to certain elements. And I consider myself, my soul in general, I am complete fire. And I was always scared of fire because of what it could do to other people. So I kept repress my life up until now was, and still now in some ways, was more about like retention or containment and whatnot, instead of just like flowing and allowing, because oh, you're too loud, or oh no, we don't do that in this social clique or whatever. But what I do now, since it's fire, fire has to flare out, otherwise it will just explode inside from within or whatever. The thing that I do now, coming back to my most recent almost regression, like a few weeks ago, I kept acknowledging that the anger was there. I kept saying to myself, okay, acknowledge that you want to break something, acknowledge that you want to beat the shit out of someone, acknowledge that there's this energy that you need to do something with. And instead of going quickly for, okay, I'm going, whatever I have, I will throw it and poof, and because that's what eases it. For me personally, hearing something break or hearing something make a hole in something or tearing things, for me, the more valuable the thing that I break is, the easier and quickest the quicker that my energy dissipates. Like I get that.
Yeah.
But I since we've been in the conservatory, I've been learning, like listen to those shenanigans, listen to that voice. And I kept acknowledging that the fire was there and I needed to do something and I needed to do something quick. What I did was not breath works, which is what has been told to us. And again, everybody works differently. Even fires will behave different from other fires. What I did, what has helped with me was it has been grabbing a big ass pillow and like in here and just screaming to the top of my lungs, and sometimes even without the pillow. Actually, the most cathartic moments I've ever had in my 24 years was like 2 weeks ago when we were doing some exercise and whatnot, and I just yelled, and I kept hearing that voice in my head that said, "Hey, keep it down. Hey, you do not exist in isolation. Hey, you have neighbors. Hey, your sister's giving a class back there." I shut them down because every single part of my soul, like 99.9%, was telling me you need to scream. Because otherwise, if I did not scream from the top of like literally my pelvis, not even from my lungs or from my throat, from my pelvis, I needed that guttural scream. If I did not do it, I would have like thrown chairs into windows and shit like that. I screamed to the top of my lungs with all my might, like I had never ever in my life done. And it lasted for a few seconds, like a good few seconds. Like afterwards, my sister and my mom were hysterical. Like, what the fuck do you think you are? What are you doing? You're not. But they understood then. But it felt so cathartic. It felt like when you sweat off the alcohol from last night. Like when you sweat it, it's like, oh shit. And it gave me so much clarity because I saw in one TikTok like you cannot see your reflection in boiling water, so you cannot see clearly when you all have that anger inside you.
Yeah.
Allow the waters to still, and I made that when I released all that energy from my God, because it was literally my God telling me to scream. When I released it, I felt so lightweight and so clear. And it I don't think it will be always like that, because I don't want to be, screaming at the top of my lungs like a crazy man with all my old lady neighbors. That's why I use the pillow method now, even though it's not. You still hear that shit from afar. But yeah, to sum it up in my advice to make it like universal, not as personal as it has been right now. Listen to what your anger is telling you to do, acknowledge it, and then find a way to make it sustainable. Like we've heard this, make a pause. Like don't just react. Acknowledge the feeling, label it. It's very important that you label your feelings, because once you know what they are, you can predict them. You can you can keep them, you can control them, if you will. So identify them, label them, and then listen to it, in a sustainable, healthy way. Sometimes you can just throw like a sponge if that's what you want, like the release of energy. Sometimes it's screaming.
A sponge. Yeah, totally. I think that the balance resides in like, also you need to like, I know that sometimes we can't deal with the feelings that we're getting, but I think that the process is in beginning to know how to self-regulate. And if we can't self-regulate, how can we, be mindful of the others around us? Because, they can't, like, it's whatever it is that is happening to us, they are not like, other people are not responsible for how we are processing our feelings and our pain. So it's not their responsibility to hear us like explode and scream at the back of my lung. Like if I did that here in New York, probably they will call the police and take me to the station. You know what I mean? It was to not be like, no, zero tolerance, this bitch is doing noise, take her to the station. So like but you mentioned something about like acknowledging feelings and identifying them and labeling them, and I think that's very wise, and it's used a lot in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. That it's that formula exactly. I mean, I'm not a CBT or DBT therapist, but they help you like to recognize what it is, that it's the feeling, to acknowledge it, that it's there. It's not like, oh, hello, there's not a pen in this take. There's not a pen in front. There's not a pen in front of my eye. There is nothing in front of my eye. There's nothing, right? It's like, okay, there is a pen in front of my eye. You have to acknowledge it, and then just understand it. And if you cannot understand it and it's beyond you, then we've been talking in this dialogues like the importance of like maybe, you know, having a group or a specialist that can help us navigate the troubles of the mind and the troubles of behavior and stuff, you know, because we're always going to have challenges. And but I think it's really courageous that you come here and you speak up about these truths that a lot of people are just, you know, too scared to talk about, and to say, hey, I do have anger management problems, like you know, hello, I break bottles, and yeah. But yeah, it's like I think, I mean, not I don't want this to sound like, you know, like judgmental or like motherly or whatever, but like self-harm is never going to be the solution to the boiling anger or sadness or impotency or frustration that we are feeling. If I go to your metaphysical like realm and everything, I could identify myself with water, and then what I would do is I would melt in my own sorrows and sadness and like drown in there and say, oh, I'm so sad, nobody talk to me because I'm drowning, and my living room will be literally like here of water, and it would be like trying to come out to breathe, and it wouldn't happen. But it is interesting to like not because you're already feeling the feelings, and you're already going through the pain and through the thing. So like harming yourself on top of that is going to only, I think, in response, like it's like 1 + 1 = 2. So if you're hurting and you hurt yourself, you're only going to get more pain and more suffering and more detachment of yourself and the comprehension that you have of yourself. Yeah. But it is important to talk about it and to like get uncomfortable and you know, and feel the feel.
And coming back to like the self-harm and what triggers it was a lot of self-hatred. We've mentioned that I was not living up to my potential. I was not living my, you know, like my true self. And since I hated my body so much, I felt like I could do whatever the fuck I wanted with it, you know? Because I did not like the vessel that I was in at those moments. So for me, anger sometimes feels like a sneeze, but a sneeze that tells you, ooh, I'm coming, you know? Like you're like, and you're looking like to cover your face or cover your mouth or like to go outside, and then, oh shit, it's
Hi!
you feel that discomfort inside your gut, like shit, I missed something, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So for me, anger, when talking back to that episode I had last week or 2 weeks ago, it was so fucking easy because my fucking arm is here, you know. I could just go back and like, because that was the anger, and instead of looking for something to throw, no, but this will break, no, but this will spill, but no, but this will, instead of going that I kept looking at my arm, and I was like, and I was super fucking hairy, but then again, I have to like make a big emphasis acknowledging it and identifying it, because once you identify, okay, it's anger. Maybe the first one, two, three, four times that you identify it, it does little to no good to just identify it. But your brain already knows, like, oh, I react like this when this and this and that happens.
Yeah.
So like personally, me being a Scorpio, I'm like super cautious. So I have like a backup plan for a lot of situations. And one of them is like, if I get pissed, I have this roll of toilet paper that I can just fucking like bang throw into the wall, and nothing will hurt. It would be like, and that's that. My anger is addressed, identified, and addressed again. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really cool, really cool. Thank you so much for like sharing with us, and for also like giving tips, and like from sharing your journey from the beginning to now, right? That it's always, as you say, it's always a journey. It can always escalate. It can always go from like it's it's like alcoholism or everything. It's something that it stays with you and you
Yeah.
carry, but you learn how to like control or like or understand and go with it, right? So I mean, thank you so much for your vulnerability, for the time you shared, and I don't know if you want to add anything, if you want to share anything else.
Just one thing.
Go for it.
Yeah. Shit, I forgot it. God damn. I read it in the comments. Made it pop up in my head, but oh yeah. So the journey of self love is exactly that. It's a journey, but it's also a choice that we make every day. It's not like I've said this numerous times, but I'm saying it again on the record. It's it's not a battle that we win once and then it's all downhill in the best way, like no resistance from now on. No, sometimes even if you're like in the top of your mental world and whatever, you have everything you desire or whatnot, sometimes even then you might wake up hating the fuck out of the body that you exist in or yourself in general or whatever. Just know that it's okay to have those trips, like those tripping downs, because it's not recession and it's not bad to have them, because it just means that you're human, you know. We don't work like we don't make one decision and that's it for the rest of our lives. We have to keep sticking with it, you know. Like it's with marriage, healthy marriages are a choice that you make every day. When you wake up, and you choose to keep being with that person, you know. It's not like you get used to their company, and no, that's where it gets unhealthy. You have to actively choose, okay, today I'm going to love myself and do whatever it takes to show myself that. Show up for yourself in any way that you can, that you feel that you should, because our souls keep telling us what to do. We just sometimes ignore it and call that free will, you know. But no, flowers don't need free will to blossom. They do it because the sun and the elements and whatnot. We're the same. Our souls know what they want and what they need. We just have to listen to them and be aware that we do not exist in isolation. Do not affect others.
It's always a journey. Yeah, and what you say, like before, I mean, I'm just gonna add this because it seemed important to me, like about where you think that you don't know where you are because you're not into your true potential, or you're not in your like full fulfillment. It was like just for one moment, like you said, acknowledging and identifying, also identify those patterns of belief systems and thoughts, and say to yourself, like, am I really not doing anything for myself that can bring me forward to where I want to be? If you are not, then stop lying to yourself and do something. But if you are, then be compassionate with yourself and say, hey, for now, I'm taking this step. And in certain amount of time, I'm going to take the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step. And that way you can grow and you can actually become who your truly potential tells you to be, but not what a social construct told you to be, a political construct told you to be, an economical construct told you to be, what you really want to be. So it's like just saying that with what you say, that it's always a journey. And it's also like we are never taught, we're always taught how to be competitive, how to be individualistic and pursuing and do, and you have to be better than this one, and you have to be there, and you have next, like just wake up, and then at 5 years old you have to be in Wall Street, you know, and you're like, yeah. But nobody teaches us how to be compassionate to ourselves, and how to be compassionate to others, and accepting the steps in the journey. It's always about doing. So why don't we focus sometimes about being? So it's like, well, just a little bit of reflection there from our metaphysical minds. It actually looks great on you. It doesn't look good on me. I look like I'm like getting out of the shower or something. Like.
I got the
But
tag,
anyway.
dude. What can I say?
Thanks everybody that was here listening to this uncomfortable dialogue. Thank you, Kevin, for being here. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for talking about this very delicate and vulnerable subject. And thank you for sharing with us your wisdom and your joy and your personality. And we'll see you next week in another uncomfortable dialogue here.
Woo! Thank you.
Woo!
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Bye.
Bye.